Hello, we had some customers ask what is the difference between Let's Go Learn and iXL. So I wanted to explain it to you very quickly. So iXL grew up more as a online worksheets in a sense, or test practice, I should say. And there's lots of information. So when you come to their site, you come over here and you could see all different skills listed by grade level. So you can say, what are the skills that are taught in 6th grade, 5th grade, 4th grade, 3rd grade, and so on and so forth. Of course, obviously there's other subjects as well, but I'm going to focus on math because math is probably the most complex in this regards. So if we click on the skills, we see them all listed out here. Now this is where it becomes very different. A lot of these different areas are scope and sequences of skills, so you need to teach things in order. But iXL does not necessarily generate a really advanced path. When you look at their materials, these are the scores that their math assessment generates. Fraction score, algebra, numbers and operations, geometry, and they use these individual scores to place students. Now, this is good. Fractions is an individual subtest, but the rest of these are broad strands. And when you look at our assessment, we have these strands too: numbers and operations, measurements, data analysis, geometry, algebra. We give students individual scores, but each one we break it up. So if I take a look at numbers and operations, we see that it's numbers, place value, ordering, addition, subtraction, multiplication. And when our students actually test in our system, for instance, in place value, we get very granular. I could take a look at my entire class and see this is the scope and sequence of place value, and this is where the students are at. So these students here have mastered it. These students are working on 1s and 2 digits, 3 digits, thousands, 10,000s, all the way up to decimal place value. So we actually test down to the skill and concept level. So that's the first difference. Is our assessment is a precision diagnostic assessment, where their assessment is technically not a diagnostic. This is considered benchmark. But in this day and age, most companies call this a diagnostic. It's from a special education standpoint or from a really struggling standpoint, it's not. Maybe if you're within grade level, you can call this a diagnostic because you're very close, and so it's. But if somebody has skills multiple grade levels down, this is not considered diagnostic data. Same thing in language arts as well. I'm not going to go into this as much right now, but they have vocabulary, reading strategies. What is reading strategies? There's phonics, there's sight words, there's comprehension strategies. There's lots of skills. So they're sort of lumping these things into these very broad categories where, for instance, on our reading assessment, we break it down into high frequency words, word recognition, phonics, phonemic awareness, spelling, vocabulary, comprehension strategies, right? So the next big difference is the lessons, right? So if we go into iXL, I clicked on one-step word problems, and really this is where you see the bulk of their stuff is just test practice. So they give you lots of questions and the kids have to do it. And then maybe if you have a hard time, you could watch a video. So let me just real quickly watch this video.
Hello everyone. In this video, we will be solving one-step multiplication and division equations with word problems. We want to start by determining what the correct equation is for the given word problem. We want to list the information given to create the equation. Once the equation is created, you must solve the equation by undoing the operation being done to the variable. And if you multiply or divide the same number on both sides of the equation, the two sides will still be equal.
So you could saw a little bit of that right there. The first thing about that you could see is it's not really going back and explaining the concept. If somebody is struggling, this kind of explanation is very short and it doesn't work, right? They need to back up a little bit more. I'll show you how we do word problems, for instance. So I'm jumping right into it. There's a little bit of an intro and then it continues.
What is asked? What is given? Write the math, number, sentence, equation, and find the answer. A class has 10 students and 4 are girls. Each boy has 2 books. How many books do the boys have all together? Yeah, yeah, yeah. What is asked? How many books do the boys have? What is given? 10 students, 4 girls, each boy has 2 books. Write the math, number, sentence, equation. 10 minus 4 equals 6. 6 times 2 equals what? And find the answer. 6 times 2 equals 12 books. What is asked?
All right, I'm gonna pause it right there, but you can see this is a very different approach. The idea is if a student is struggling, they need audio, visual, they need conceptual understanding, and you need to hit it, provide them support through multiple senses, because that's how they can actually learn it and memorize it, right? Or not memorize, but learn and process the concept. And what is asked, what's given, rather than someone saying we need to find the equation and find the variables. That is of course the student is not going to pick up on that if they're struggling, right? So it's a very different approach. The next piece here, which I think we're very different, is iXL is just going to throwing them into problems and have them, try to figure it out. But our program actually steps you through it.
First, find out what is asked, the question. Drag the question into the asked box in the table and press go. That's it. Now, move any values that are given to you in the problem into the given box and press go.
So our system is stepping the student through it. It's engaging, it's visual. I mean, it's night and day compared to what iXL is doing. But again, this is teaching the concept at the very, very base level, as opposed to just pushing the student into the problem and trying to see if they could figure it out, right? So it's a very different approach. The other thing is still, once again, it's not as, I want to get back to it, is the assessment is super important. I want to go back to the assessment. This is really important. Putting the student in finding their exact gaps and identifying it and then giving them right instruction at the right point is so important, because if you just try to place students into geometry off a 530 score, right? Let's come over. What is geometry? Geometry is actually, let's see here. These subtests, location, 2D object, 3D object, triangle, quad, area, they're going to place the students through a linear single level across all of these subtests, which means for half of them, or for a third of them, it's going to be too high. For a third, it's going to be too low. And maybe a third is right at the right level. But that causes a huge amount of frustration just because it's too hard, or frustration because it's too easy, right? So the initial placement into your instruction is so important. I cannot overemphasize how important that is. And so that's where I think there's a big difference. And that's why together all of these things make for a very different program. Now, I think a lot of people like iXL. I think if your students are close to grade level, or you have self-learners who, again, they're doing okay, and maybe they know how to navigate this and figure out exactly what lessons they need to do, and they could skip through it. But that's not really the case, right? In general, when students fall behind, and we've seen it, that's why so many students struggle in math, is because we're pushing them into programs that don't give them the right lesson at the right level. It doesn't break math down into all the granular pieces. All right, hopefully that explains it. I think there's a role for both tools, but in general, if you have a struggling student, you want to use our system. It's going to be more support, interactive, engaging, give them the right lesson at the right point. If someone's more independent, or maybe they're advanced, maybe you can use iXL. That could work for them. All right, thank you.